Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tucker, and really quickly before we get started, I want to let you guys know that I have started a second channel called Gaming Illogically. The first video is already up where I completely reset the NBA in 2K19 and did a rebuild from there. So if you're someone that maybe misses me putting up rebuilds or any of my 2K stuff that I used to do on this channel, that's something that you can definitely find over there. So if you're interested, be sure to check that out. I'm really looking forward to just putting out some 2K content over there, all kinds of gaming content, and building that channel as well. So if you're interested in that, there's a link down in the description, and I would really appreciate it if you guys would check it out. But today's video is the 2019 version of the NBA Illogical Awards Offseason edition. And if you don't know what the series is, it's basically where I give out sarcastic awards to players and teams and organizations and people within the NBA that earn them for all the wrong reasons. And actually in this one, it's a little bit of a twist because I'm including some community suggestions that I asked for as well. So with all that out of the way, let's just go ahead and get started. First up is a community suggested award, and it is the Summer of 2016 award, given to a free agency signing that was just not very good at all. And this year's winner is Al Horford of the Philadelphia 76ers. And a lot of people have talked about this, about why would Philly end up making this deal. I talked about it briefly, but I really didn't hate on it too much. But in the end, when you look at all of the free agency signings this offseason, this one is certainly in contention for the most head scratching, and in my opinion, is probably the worst in terms of going back to the summer of 2016 and looking at how many players got overpaid that offseason. This could be a similar kind of thing. Now, it's no offense to Al Horford or anything. He's going to be really good for this team this year and probably next year as well. It just has to do with the money that he's being paid, as well as the years on his contract, as well as the context of this Philadelphia team, because I understand that him and Joel Embiid are probably going to work pretty well together in the front court, and that's going to be a nice combination, but I just felt like they needed a little bit more help on the perimeter, specifically shooting, specifically a point guard, amid Ben Simmons' struggles as a point guard at times in the playoffs, as well as their shooting struggles at times, most specifically in the playoffs. Then you also have to consider Al Horford's age and the length of the contract. There's no way he's going to be worth this much money 2 years from now, even if he is worth it next year and the year after. So in terms of the Summer of 2016 award, player that got overpaid, Al Horford is this year's winner. Moving on now is a new award for this season, and it is the David Kahn Award. And this goes to a team that just made some poor draft decisions, most specifically going back to David Kahn himself. He is the GM or the president of basketball operations, whatever he was, for the Minnesota Timberwolves when they ended up drafting Johnny Flynn and Ricky Rubio with back-to-back spots in the top 5 or 6 of the 2009 draft ahead of Steph Curry. And this year's winner is the Cleveland Cavaliers for selecting Darius Garland at number 5. And this is a little bit of a weird one because I think Darius Garland is actually a pretty talented player, and there's every chance that he could end up being really good. It's just tough for me to evaluate him because I'm just going off like high school tape at this point because he barely played in college. My bigger issue here is I'm not convinced that the Colin Sexton-Darius Garland combination is going to work. One of them is probably going to end up being traded before their rookie contract is up, and it just seemed like maybe this was a spot where the Cavs could have gotten value out of the 5th pick by trading back, because it seemed like a lot of teams were interested in moving up to 5 to get Garland, and then they could get someone on the wing, maybe like Cam Reddish, that fit a little bit more what they wanted to do, in addition to getting some value, obviously, for moving back. So again, just like the first selection, I don't want to make it seem like I'm hating on the player that I'm putting here. I'm not hating on Al Horford, and I'm not hating on Darius Garland. Just a questionable decision by the front office in this scenario, similar to, like I said, what we saw from David Kahn with the Minnesota Timberwolves back in 2009. Moving on now is the Crabbe Award, which is given to a restricted free agency deal that will come back to haunt a team in the future. The 2018 winner was Zach LaVine, and the 2019 winner is Terry Rozier. Now, I'll admit, I was off on the Zach LaVine thing last year. He had a really good season. I'm still not convinced that he is going to be a hugely impactful long-term piece on a really good winning team. That still remains to be seen, but he certainly lived up to a lot of the hype of that deal last season, I guess. But my issue here with the Terry Rozier thing, and it's been pretty well stated, is just the money value and how good of a player I think he actually is, which is not very good. Like, we've just been kind of convinced for like 2 years now that Terry Rozier is going to get this big deal this offseason, and he's going to do really well when he's on another team, and he's going to be a good, above average starting point guard in the league. And I'm just not convinced that that's the case. When you look at his statistics over the last couple of seasons, when you look at the fact that he really wasn't that big of a part of the rotation for the Celtics 2 years ago, before that playoff run, before Kyrie got hurt, he really barely played. played, and now suddenly 2 years later he's making $17 million a year, and I just don't think that's very good value. Now in terms of the context of the Hornets, it kind of makes sense for them to end up making what was actually a sign and trade, but he was still a restricted free agent signing deal, because they just don't have a lot of other talent, and that makes sense to me. I just have issues with how much he's going to be paid. At least it's only a 3-year deal, but in terms of restricted free agency signings, he's definitely at the top of the list, and in my opinion, at the very top of the list for the Crabbe Award, and this year's winner is Terry Rozier. Next up is another community suggested award, and it's just titled the Why Award, and was actually the top voted one on the community post. Basically just given to a team that made a move this offseason that they really didn't need to, and it was a real head scratcher. And this one was a little bit difficult to find, but in the end, I'm gonna go with one that at the time that it happened, I really questioned why it was happening, and that was the Denver Nuggets accepting Paul Millsap's $30 million team option for next season. And it ended up working out. Like, they ended up getting people that are going to help them this offseason. They traded for Jeremy Grant, and they were able to keep Paul Millsap, and they didn't put any kind of circumstance in jeopardy where they would end up potentially losing him, because that would be a big blow to their team. I was just confused, because in any scenario that I looked at, or that most people looked at for the Denver Nuggets offseason, they were going to decline this team option to open up some cap space and maybe get some more help, and then also just try and bring back Millsap even after turning down the option. But relatively early on in free agency, they ended up accepting his option. He's certainly not going to be worth $30 million next season. It limited their flexibility this offseason. That just seemed kind of strange to me at the time, which is why I'm going to give the Denver Nuggets the Why Award, or whatever you want to call it. I see the rationale. Like, I know they didn't want to lose Paul Millsap, and it ended up working out for them, but it's just at the time, in the moment, this definitely was in contention for a head-scratching award from me, and that's why they're going to end up getting this award. Second to last now is the Locker Room Disaster Award, and this is an award given to a player or a move that could potentially cause big issues within the locker room of their team, of their new team. In 2018, it was Dwight Howard, and in 2019, it was a pretty clear selection. It's Hassan Whiteside for the Portland Trailblazers. Now, I don't have anything against Hassan Whiteside personally. I just think that he has had more than his fair share of issues the last couple of seasons, both on the court as well as in getting along with his teammates and things like that. And I believe in the Trailblazers. I believe in their structure. I believe in their organization. So I don't think that this is actually going to cause a huge issue for them. But if you look at all the moves across the league in terms of teams and player situations that this could potentially end up happening to, a locker room disaster, I think Hassan Whiteside in Portland could end up being that. If he gets there and he doesn't have the kind of role that he wants to have, if Zach Collins is playing in front of him, if Pau Gasol is taking his minutes, when Nurkic comes back, if he's taking his minutes and he's really not playing that much, I could definitely see that being a big issue for him and causing some issues for Portland. Now, having said that, I actually really like the move, because they really only gave up 2 expirings for players that they weren't going to use that much next season, to kind of stave off, some of the decline that they might experience while they're waiting on Nurkic to come back by putting in Whiteside. Should be a good rim protector, rebounder, things like that. But I am a little bit concerned, and I would imagine some Portland fans are as well, that this could have a huge negative impact on their locker room, and then they're going to have to deal with that issue when it happens. The 2019 winner of the Locker Room Disaster Award is Hassan Whiteside. And last up now is the Flipflop Award, and this one is kind of self-explanatory, but just for some context, last offseason this was given to Nemanja Bjelica because he signed a free agency deal with the Philadelphia 76ers and then later changed his mind and ended up signing with the Sacramento Kings. And this year, that award goes to Marcus Morris, now of the New York Knicks, but originally he signed a deal with the San Antonio Spurs for 2 years and $20 million, then ended up flipping on that and signing a 1-year, $15 million deal to be the 9th different forward on the Knicks. Now, I don't understand completely all the circumstances here. I just know that this caused a lot of issues for Marcus Morris, as well as the Spurs and the Knicks as well. Morris ended up apparently even either almost firing or did fire his agent, and just, I don't know. I don't know what happened here. I know that the Spurs are really mad about it, reportedly, for whatever reason, whether they feel like the Knicks stole him away or whatever, because the Spurs made moves. They traded away Davis Bertans to create the space to get Marcus Morris, and then when he flipped, they just basically gave away Bertans for no reason. And I don't know, if this was a money thing, because maybe $20 million in Texas might be worth more than $15 million in New York, depending on taxes and things like that. I don't know. I'm not a CPA, but it just seemed like a really strange situation, just like the Bjelica thing last year, where you just completely flip, although in both cases it was on paper for more money last offseason as well as this offseason for Bielitsa and Morris respectively. So this year's winner of the Flip-Flopper Award goes to Marcus Morris, now of the New York Knicks, but originally of the San Antonio Spurs. And there you have it. That is going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you all very much for watching. Like I mentioned in the beginning, if you guys would do me a favor and check out the gaming channel, there's already a video up there for you guys to look at. Spread the word. That's something I'm really looking forward to growing and to putting some time and effort to. It's obviously not going to impact my uploads here at all, but it's just something that I've wanted to do for a while, something I'm really looking forward to kind of growing and pushing out there a little bit. So if you guys could check that out, I would really appreciate it. But once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.